Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chasing Psychological Safety. Today, we'd like to talk to you about the pitfalls of becoming too fluffy, if you wish, and how we all experience times where, out of really good intentions, we might end up not doing the right things when it comes to the humans in our organizations. We think there are multiple reasons for this, and we have some ideas as to how you can counteract some of those situations for you today. But in yesterday's article, we were talking about one of the things we have experienced, which is out of those same good intentions, we sometimes end up talking about doubling down on some topics or using synonyms or being slightly more slightly fluffier than we would like to be about some topics. And we found ourselves doing a play that in short had no business existing, because we had already covered that with another play in one of the things we were covering in the playbook. But in that same fashion, we think that maybe part of why this is happening to both us and yourselves, I'm sure, in your organizations, is the fact that these big topics of the human work, the human interventions, the things we need to do to get psychological safety for our teams, they're all really big topics. And in particular, in times like the ones we're traversing now, which are really difficult and really taxing, and we have all of these operational competing priorities, and we have all of these things happening to us that we feel like we have to bring our A game for. It's really difficult to keep in mind what matters and what's the fundamentals of doing the human work. And it's really easy to default to doing things that are on the to-do list, things that are seemingly easier to deliver on, your clear deliverables, your to-dos, your tickets from the backlog, your technology deliverables, your KPIs, the things that you can actually point to when it comes to results. All of those very tangible things, very operational things are our go-to, in particular when things get tough, like they have been for all of us. And so it is oftentimes a matter of effort, an intentional effort that we all need to do to stop and think, yes, but am I choosing the operational / technical work over the people work because I need to, or because it's easier? Is it because those things are can really not wait and they are priority number one? Or am I not actually taking this conversation with myself and figuring out what really matters? And fair enough, not everyone is running a company, not everyone is running a team or department or even a list of priorities. But if we can take a step back and wonder, do I truly believe that my operational to-do is more important than any of the human work I could be doing in this time? Then it's worth doing. If I am undertaking it so that I put off any of the human work, then it's not worth doing, and we should probably not do it. And if you want to flip it around, is there anything that a to-do that's very practical that I could put off right now, strike it off the list, and not feel guilty about it because I'm replacing it with something that will better my team, will better my EQ, will better my understanding as a leader, will better any of the human interventions? Then we should probably be doing that. So I urge everyone to kind of be critical about the human work at every corner, and never undertake any of the operational bits just for the sake of them.
And leading on from that, there's some of the priorities or some of the things that can cloud our view when we're trying to prioritize the human work, and we're trying to be really laser focused on creating great teams, creating psychological safety, creating all of those environmental conditions that are going to make all of our lives better. So let's not forget that we're looking towards something that is going to make your life better, make the organization better. Those three things are competing priorities, competing departments, and of course internal politics, which are all intertwined but slightly different. So competing priorities, we've just talked about that a little bit, but it's really useful to you, important to you, and as a leadership team can be a really great topic for discussion around what are we prioritizing when we what are we prioritizing as a default? What are we prioritizing over the people work? What are we prioritizing because we think that's what our client wants, or we think that's what our customer wants, when in fact, what they'd really love to see us doing is focusing on how we deliver as a team, how we are as a team, and not to lose sight of the importance and the benefits, the huge long-term benefits of thinking really hard about the competing priorities that you've got, taking a step back, taking a breath, and trying to just dissect those and think, what should I be doing and could I be doing differently here to not have this issue of competing priorities in the future? Because I've got a team that's so well functioning that we no longer have that issue, or it's really minimized. The other one that leads on from that is competing departments. So everybody in the world thinks that their priority, their issue for you, their question, their ticket is the most important thing on your to-do list. And when it comes again to focusing on the people work, what sometimes happens is that you'll get other departments, either one shouting out for work that they need doing, and that clouds your view on what you want to get done. Or sometimes looking at it from a kind of systemic point of view, you might have other departments around you that have different views on the kind of work that you want to get done and the kind of focus that you want to have on your team. So sometimes we need to think really carefully about how important that view is, how relevant that view is, and how to really engage with those other competing departments around how we're going to do that work and what kind of work we're going to do with the team. But if you flip that around again and engage those teams, then they're no longer competing and trying to what feels like stop you from focus on the people work. They're actually going to be part of that people work, or you're going to be able to do something out of the people work that's going to really help them as well. And then everybody's winning. And then finally, internal politics. And I think we all suffer from this and we all experience this in our working lives. Internal politics can really get in the way of being able to be completely clear on what you want to get done with your team and what you want to get done with the people work. So politics needs to be separate from the people work that you're doing. If you're having challenging team dynamics or challenging dynamics outside of the team, if you feel that you've got pressure from above you somewhere in the organization to deliver on some of that technical or operational work over and above the people work, find the allies in the organization that are going to help you navigate that internal politics in such a way that you can keep that focus on the people work, because ultimately that is going to help you dissolve and resolve some of those internal politics as well. But all of those three things, competing priorities, competing departments, and internal politics, can really cloud the view of how to move forward and what to move forward on. So bear those in mind as well.
Yes, and I think obviously that's kind of whose to do is to do that, right? So these are the way that Fionn has gone through them is very clear, but we can each do these things at our team level. The question is there some form of centralized vision of these things happening that way? And obviously that is at the leadership level, much as we would like to believe that there's a way to kind of decentralize everything, and much as we firmly believe that the people work should happen at the team level. If there's anything that leaders should be doing, is they should have this helicopter view of the competing bits and pieces, those three moving parts that Fionn was talking about. And then if they do see it happening, then what are they to do? Are they to stop people from having competing projects? Are they to kind of dim their light in terms of this good intention? Obviously, none of those are a good alternative. But what we would suggest, and what we do suggest to leadership commonly, is to focus on one unifying element, which is the language element. And it's probably the key to kind of making sure that these things don't actually happen, which is having a way that you get clarity at an organizational level in terms of the words you're using, the concept you believe in, and the intersection between them, making sure you don't use it would be immensely interesting to map out how many words an organization uses for the same concept. And if you start doing that, you start seeing why these things happen. Why do you have kind of pockets of budget and pockets of goodwill and pockets of people working on what is essentially the exact same thing, only by a different name? So commonly you'll see things like there's projects to increase employee engagement. There's also other projects to increase employee happiness. There's other projects to increase high morale and or its relationship to productivity. All of those things are essentially the exact same thing, but nobody's going to call them the same thing because there might be, as Fiona was saying, different competing political reasons, competing budget reasons, and so on and so forth. That is organizational sickness, and that needs fixing from the top. And instead of fixing it by going, right, this is our new organizational chart, the way to fix it is to kind of say, what do we mean by all these things? What are we attempting to accomplish in terms of having our employees happy? What one word do we call this? If we call this purple from here on, that's fine, but at least we won't be calling it 3 different things and giving it 3 different budgets and having 3 different departments deal with it in 3 different ways, because it does not translate into any kind of real purpleness for employees. It translates into projects. And God knows we have enough projects. We just need clarity in terms of language as a unifying way to have purpleness and not projects, as we said. But yeah, so start with language, make sure that everyone's saying the exact same things with the exact same word, even if you have to invent one. And that will start cleaning up some of this human debt in terms of organizational internal politics.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of clarity on words, one of the phrases that we talk about a lot, because it's such a critical factor in psychological safety and great teams, is impression management. And this is something that we will work our hardest to help you to be self-aware around, because again, with regards to staying focused on the team and the people work, if you've got a challenge with impression management internally within you, that's potentially going to be a significant barrier to you moving forward. And that could look a couple of different ways. And 2 really good examples are not having or perceiving that you don't have organizational permission. Some kind of concern deep inside you that may be founded or potentially unfounded that the organization won't have an appetite for this. That this won't go down well. I won't be thought of well if I put this forward. I will somehow lose credibility or career progression opportunities or whatever it might be if I voice this idea. This idea is one that is there to benefit the team and benefit the organization, this idea of working on the people work. So put it out there, see what happens, and try and just catch yourself with regards to that impression management and not let it stop you. And the other one, of course, is a perceived lack of knowledge. I've only just been reading about this topic. I'm really excited about it. It's really resonated with me. I've watched webinars and I've been on conferences, but who am I to make this happen? You have the tools, you have the knowledge. Get started. That's what everybody is doing around great teamwork, and just getting things kicked off is the way forward. But being really aware around your own self-doubt can be really help you release that blocker as well.
Precisely. And part of that is having the courage to have an agile enough of a mindset to understand that this is just stuff you're going to try out, and trying it out puts you in an infinitely better position than all the people that are not trying it out. This does not need to be laid out as a 6-year project. This is not you can't do it even if you wanted to. This is not fit for sequential thinking. It's not fit for big transformational projects. This is all on the fly. We're trying it out. We're incrementally bettering people's lives by measuring what's happening right now, and that's really important, and you can't shy away from that. That's part of your lack of organizational permission in terms of measuring. That probably the first thing that needs to go is your impression that you're not allowed to be measuring how people feel. Very wrong, very untrue, needs fixing right away. You're not only allowed, but you should do so. There's a lot to be said, an immense benefit in acknowledging that there are ways to find out how people are feeling, and there are ways of measuring what parts do and do not work in the team dynamic and in the human dynamic in your organization. And you need to find those ways and get them in, whether it's software like ours, or it's ways of asking one by one, or it's any other type of tools that will help you do it, you need to find those things first and foremost for several reasons. One, it will help with your organizational weight, if you wish, and your ability to kind of bring these topics to the organization. It will help, it will diminish your fear, and so impression management is going to happen less. It will kind of equalize language. Many of these tools are going to come up with a certain set of parameters, and then you're going to have to use those and or agree or disagree around them, which starts that conversation around language. It will clarify the competing priorities, because instead of it being a fluffy, let's discuss things type of workshop or initiative or program that various departments are putting together, it will be a very clear set of, are we measuring this? Are we checking this? So it will kind of eliminate that type of theoretical competing priorities. So in a way, we feel like the great equalizer there is data, and getting to that data means measuring and being sure that you are open about measuring, and you ask these questions of your people with their best interest in heart is probably the best way to kind of deal with all of these pitfalls you are encountering. And again, we are presuming you care enough. We are presuming you know ahead of you there's a period where the human work over the next year or 2 or 3 is going to be the number one thing you need to be doing. You could be stopping any of the operational work and focusing on this only, and you'd be doing your organization a service, not a disservice. So yeah, don't be afraid to kind of equalize around language, equalize around data. Take that courageous step of not being mired down by impression management, and make sure that your teams have the opportunity to grow through the human work that they will put into themselves. Thank you for listening to us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.